Hi everyone and welcome to this new video for Lindy's Gang. In this video I'm going to show you how I've created these beach themed tags, which are easy to create, so also very suitable for beginner mixed media adventurers. And I'm also going to show you how I used a photo as my inspiration. So thank you for watching, thanks for your support. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video, and thank you for watching. Have a great day. So I've used a photo of Byron Beach and created a color palette using a application called Colors. I've did a live stream a couple of weeks ago about some color theory, but also very useful tools. And there's a link to this website where you can use your own photos to create really cool palettes. So I actually decided to switch one color because the second color in my palette is a little bit too gray-green and I wanted to use more of a real green. So I decided to use a avocado flat spray. So first I decide on which elements I'm going to use on my tags. Most of the time that is how I start with my projects, just to have a little bit of an image in my head of what I'm going to create, but most of the time I'll end up using a lot of different stuff and adding it a different way than I thought of, but that's okay, it's just for an inspiration. So I'm using shells and I'm using some fishnet and just some not the most expensive elements, and something that I think also the creators on a budget can be able to create, I think. I always like to use this gauze, I think it's called gauze. It's like wound, bandage kind of thing, cheesecloth-ish. And the fun thing, if you pull the threads, you can create this really fun looking shabby kind of extra texture. And especially when you're using it with like a liquid medium or a sculpture medium, you can create really cool effects. So the first thing that I'm doing is adding a white layer of gesso to these cardboard tags. So this is the moment when you make the deal with yourself, you never throw away cardboard boxes because you can always create with them. So I'm using a thick white gesso because I like the fact that they cover like really easily. And this time I will use an order where I first adhere everything to my tags and then add color. But it's also possible to just turn it around and first color everything and then adhere it to your tag. But that's just something, it's really up to you whether you like it or not, but I would recommend for the beginners to use the technique that I'm using here. So adhere everything, make it white or add gesso and then add color. But that is something completely up to you. I'm using a stencil to add some texture, and this is my favorite stencil to use when I'm doing beach themed things. Well, I guess you can see why. And I'm using ordinary modeling paste this time to add texture, just to make it a little bit more easy. I'm using a combination of heavy body gel and my glue gun to adhere everything. The reason that I'm doing this is I found out during live streams um, I just needed to figure out something because I didn't have the time to wait for the heavy body gel to dry, but I'm also not a fan of using my glue gun. So the reason that I don't recommend using your glue gun is in mixed media is the fact that you are using your heat tool a lot, and using water or inks together with a heat tool and a glue gun will mess up your glue. So your glue will actually start to melt again, and it just doesn't work right with water. So that is why I wouldn't recommend to use your glue gun only. But the combination of a glue gun and heavy body gel is really easy because the glue gun adheres really fast and the heavy body gel adheres really good. So that is why I would use both of them. But if you need to pick one, go for the heavy body gel. So now I'm using just a regular sponge to add a layer of white gesso to my fishnet, just because I don't necessarily like the brown color, and I like to create a more of a whitewashed kind of effect. So that is why I'm using a sponge and don't really mind that it doesn't cover everything completely. So last week I saw a video, and I can't really recall whose video it was, but she was actually using sculpture medium with 3D art balls or art stones. And I thought, hey, that is something I need to try. And I could see like the benefits of using sculpture medium because it's, well, it dries flexible. So this was something that I wanted to experiment with in this project, and I actually really like the way that it looked because of the fact that you're actually creating a sort of flexible structure using art stones and sculpture medium. And I really like the way they adhere to the project or stick to the project. It's really different than using like a soft gel or anything. So besides using art stones, I also like to add pearls and beads to my beach projects. I'm not sure why, but I think pearls are like the same as the ocean. When I think of the ocean and a deep sea kind of scene, I always think of pearls. So I'm using 3D matte gel to glue these onto the project. And it's just because I had it right there, and it's easy to use, and it's a little bit thicker than like the soft gels, so that is why I like to use this with things like beads. After I dried the gel completely using my heat tool, I'm adding another layer of white gesso using a sponge. But just as I said in the beginning, I like to use my gesso in a more whitewash kind of way. So that's the reason why I'm using a sponge, just to make sure that I don't completely cover everything with white gesso. I really like the way that my colors are going to well look on this project when I'm not completely covering it in white gesso. And now the real fun starts. So I've also grabbed one of the skirts, Looney Toony Teal. And when adding color, I always have this rule in my head where I'm using the darker colors to add shadows and the lighter colors well, to fill the rest. So as you can see, I'm using Looney Toony Teal as my shadow color and then add 2 lighter colors to the rest of the project. This is something that is quite important to do, because if you would like change that order, so use like a darker color for your highlights, well, obviously it doesn't really match because of the names, but it's just everything that is darker kind of disappears to the background. So if you would use so to say a darker color on like the shells on top, it would really look a bit off, because it's not logical, or it doesn't look natural when you're adding the darker colors on top. It'll just look a bit weird. So that's totally up to you, of course, but yeah, just go check that if you ever think there's something off with my project. Make sure to check if the color use is right and is natural. So dark on the shadows, light on the things that are on top. And I'm also using white gesso to, well, whitewash the project again. I think it's a little bit too dark, a little bit too saturated, so that is why I'm adding a layer of white gesso, but exactly the same as I did before, not adding it, not covering it completely in white gesso, but just add some white gesso to lighten everything up. So now it's time for my finishing touches. So I'm using a really old sticker sheet by 13 Arts, and I'm adding some corrugated cardboard on the back just to make it look a bit more interesting. And I'm using Don't Be Afraid of Change, and I'm also going to add a text on the other tag. And you will see in a few moments that I'm also going to add some Nouveau drops, and this time I'm using the stone drops, which create a very cool dimensional structured kind of textured drop, which is really cool, and it's perfect for these tags. And these are the tags all finished. So I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope I got to inspire you just to create some easy and simple beachy tags as well using your favorite Lindy Gang sprays. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment sections down below the video. And if you like the video, please consider to like and subscribe. And for now, thank you for watching. Thanks for your support and have a wonderful day.